Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is now time for our final tournament of the year, Countdown Cup time. So, a couple of things about this tournament that I want to go through before I get into my pick'ems for the rest of the week. For those of you who I did too, who thought that this was going to be a fourth separate tournament, that's actually not how it's going down this time. This tournament is functioning just as a play-in for the overall playoffs. So the format of the overall playoffs, it's going to be like the Summer Showdown was, where there's 12 teams in the playoffs themselves. The top 6 teams from the West are going to qualify in automatically. Top 3 teams from the East are going to automatically qualify. That leaves 3 more spots, which 2 of them will be taken from the West, and 1 will be taken from the East. So those will be the final 12. So for some of these teams, this is more of just a locking in for the rest of the the season, getting into a good start. So if they have momentum going into playoffs. For some teams, it's going to be, of course, trying to get into the play-ins themselves, because it'll be the 7 through 10 seeds in the West that are in. So if you're 11 or 12, you're axed. So for the East, it's going to be the 7 is out next, and then 4 through 6 compete for that last spot. So there is a ton at stake here. As you can see, there's double token matches now, as well as double points. So that's kind of fun on the pick'ems. So yeah, that was just a little bit of a breakdown about what's going to happen, how it's going to go down, leading up to the playoffs, which, as you can see, are October 30th through the 3rd of November, and the grand finals are on November 4th. Man, it'd be nice to go. But in any case, as you can see, we've got the $2.55 million for overall playoffs, US wise. Not bad, considering how a lot of the old sponsors got dropped. But in any case, we will roll through the pick'ems. We're going to go through a couple of the results of the first day, and then talk about the predictions for the rest of the week quickly. So from yesterday, we had Boston taking down Houston in a pretty large upset there, 3-1. Really nice momentum builder for Boston. What have I been saying all season? Just play Punk. Like, I understood they acquired Mag, and I get the logic of it. He's a really good player. Just play Punk. They win when he plays. They're so much of a better team when he plays. I don't know why exactly. Obviously he's a great player, but Mag is as well. But there's just something about him being on this roster that really, really bolsters them. So, disappointing one for Houston. They still do have time to bounce back. But they're a team, to me, it's scary. If I'm a Houston fan, I'm looking at just like, is this just going to be a year where we're really good and we win a lot of matches? They're still 13-6. So it's not like they played bad, but they haven't had deep success in any kind of tournament. And if they don't, start to turn it around and get the momentum going the other way, I don't know if they're going to be able to make a big run in the playoffs. Then we had Dallas taking down Washington 3-1. Fuel looking very solid. Playing a Genji comp with Edison on the Genji, and he looked good. But people, were kind of wondering, why isn't Sparkle in? Because probably the best Genji in the world. He's up there, and Doha was playing, but not on the. He was playing more on like the Sombra type rather than the Genji, and he's also an incredible Genji. So it was an interesting decision, but again, Edison, he looked good. Like honestly, he looked very clean on the Genji. So Washington put up a decent fight. Decay had some nice moments on the Tracer. Kalios had some good moments here and there on a few maps. But in the end, Dallas were a bit too much, looking solid already in this meta. And then Atlanta took down Toronto 3-2. Toronto nearly had the reverse sweep, but Atlanta were able to hold them off and take that Both those teams look solid. They're going to be teams to watch going forward for sure. They have really nice DPS coverage. Toronto in particular looked really good with when they were running the Sojourn Widow on Circuit Royale. That's a really solid map for them. But Atlanta, Kai on the Widow. I mean, come on, and speedily. Genji the Tracer, he can do a lot of things really, really well. So I think these are going to be two really good teams moving forward. And Atlanta, gets a really quality victory against Toronto in that one. And then, as you can see, for today, London's currently playing Paris. London is up 2-1. That match is probably over by now, actually. Well, unless Paris won map 5, then or map 4, then they're probably playing map 5 right now. But from what I saw of it, got off work, saw a little bit of the third map. Paris looked pretty solid, but London also looking pretty strong in this meta. Shaxx being on the Tracer is going to be great. Meta's, still kind of being defined. We've seen a little bit of Winston. We've seen a little Junker Queen. We've seen some Doomfist from the teams that really like Doomfist. We've seen a decent amount of Zarya. Some D.Va in the Spitfire Paris match. So, and we've seen a little bit of Orisa from the Justice. So there's a lot in play going on. We'll see what happens. I think that Zarya, probably a rotation of Zarya and Doomfist with some D.Va thrown in, I think is going to be the go-to in this kind of meta. With Junker Queen being nerfed, I think she'll still have her points and her her maps, but I don't know. I don't see any tank being like very dominant over the others. Zarya would probably be my tank of choice right now, but I don't say that confidently. I think it could very well swing in other directions depending on which DPS duos really start to lock in. We've seen a pretty good amount of Sombra Tracer, we've seen some Soldier Tracer, we've seen some Sojourn, some Widow here and there, still the Genji sprinkled in for some teams. So, we'll see how it develops. I'm very curious. This is a bit of a wide open meta for sure. But anyways, I did have London winning that one 3-0. Obviously, they can't do that anymore. But they are still in pretty good shape to win as of last I saw. Then Gladiators Florida, I had the Gladiators taking it down 3-1. I think they're going to jump off to a much better start this stage than the last. A little bit of definitely a weaker schedule. And I think that this meta is going to be a bit better for them. Interesting to see who. I have a feeling we're going to see Ryan around the Fist / Queen / a couple other things. But we'll see. Space looked really good in the last little bit. The last few matches of the Summer Showdown qualifiers. That's the word. But I do have Gladiators winning this one 3-1. Big thank you to Patapan, who did retire just the other day. Coming in, getting 2 victories under his belt. Was extremely emotional. It was a really cool moment after they won the kickoff clash. So a guy that was super, super hyped, they kind of fell off, retired from Overwatch, went to Val? I think he went to Val for a bit, came back to Overwatch, had this success now, retired once again, nothing but the best for him, whether he's pursuing a different game, or is just stepping out of professional gaming. He's a really fun player to watch and an integral part of the Gladiators. So with him and Ons now gone, it really falls to Kevster and Happy. So we will see how that all develops. But those are 2 insane DPS players, so they should still be all right. Florida looks super solid. Had a nice little run in the lower bracket of the Summer Showdown. So I think it's pretty competitive, but I still think LA's stronger in that one. Got Toronto taking down New York 3-1. This could and should be the best meta, I think, for New York so far, but I still don't trust them. Toronto's been a very good team all season long, and I think that they take it down with relative ease, with New York maybe sneaking out the control map. Then I have London. I really was high on London this week, and I'm taking down Vancouver 3-0. I was really starting to feel the Vancouver hype, and then they fell pretty freaking flat in the Summer Showdown, and I don't know. This is still a very nice team. They should be able to do some good things, and I think they'll be, for the most part, competitive. Well, maybe I don't. I predicted them going 0-6 this week. But I don't know. I think I'm just still kind of jaded from the summer showdown. I was like, come on, Vancouver, make a little run here, do something cool, and it just didn't really pan out. Next, Shock taking down Washington Justice 3-1. Again, Washington had some nice moments. They had a really good map against Dallas. You know, like I was talking about with the circuit, or sorry, that was Toronto. But they also, you know, they had a couple of competitive matches against Dallas. They always kind of played Dallas tough. You know, same thing as San Francisco. They almost beat them in a tournament earlier in the year. But again, San Francisco, they're pretty meta-proof. For the Shock, it's now just they have to win playoffs. This is going to be a disappointment. I think it's going to be a disappointing year from their standpoint, from their production, if they don't win the grand finals, because they're 17-1 with no tournament wins. Gladiators have 2, Dallas has 1, Seoul has 1, Shanghai has 1. And in the regular season, Shock have been better than all those teams. You know, their only loss was to Fuel last regular season, but they have fallen just a little short in every single tournament. You know, the Summer Showdown was their closest yet, but they were also close in Midseason Madness. But even if they finish 23-1, if they don't win the grand finals, it's going to be, they're going to be the New York of 2017 or 2018, where they were the best team all regular season and then just couldn't make it happen in the playoffs. So, interesting storyline there. I do think San Francisco is obviously going to be up there, you know, as one of the favorites, and they're going to take down Washington in a pretty competitive series, I think. Then I got Boston taking down Florida 3-2. You know, these are two teams that I think are really kind of battling for, you know, the mid spots, you know, kind of see, you know, which teams are going to start to rise to the challenge and which are going to kind of slow down a little bit. And I'm feeling better about this one after seeing Boston. They looked really solid. You know, they're a solid team overall. I just think some inconsistencies in the DPS line, and they've done a lot of rotating in terms of that main tank, or the tank. And I think it's just hurt them a little bit, and they've had these bad stretches. But this Boston could go on a little run here and be quite the interesting team going into playoffs. Next, Atlanta versus New York. I have Atlanta taking that one 3-0. You know, it feels like this year Atlanta's just played really well against some of the lower ranked teams. You know, they've just had trouble with the higher teams. You know, the Gladiators, the Shock, the Fuel. You know, have just really been tough for Atlanta. You know, and they've won a couple, they've lost a couple against, you know, your Torontos, you know, your Washington. So, you know, with New York being one of the lower teams, I think they'll be able to take care of them without much trouble. Same thing for Fuel versus Paris. I got Dallas taking it 3-0. Like I said, Paris, you know, they've shown some signs of life here. Rack Attack, really nice performances on the Zenyatta. You know, the one map I should say. You know, and I think Dove, if he's able to play some, you know, the Soldier, the Ash, you know, I think he can make an impact. Malthal has been a solid addition as well. You know, is now their main Tracer player. But in the end, I do think Dallas is still quite a bit better. Obviously, you know, our reigning Summer Showdown champions. So I think that they take care of Paris without too much trouble. San Francisco Shock versus Houston Outlaws. This is an interesting one for sure. But again, I got it 3-1. It should probably be 3-0 for San Fran, but I think Houston will snag one on them. But in the end, San Francisco, they just, you know, they've been super consistent all year. I don't have, you know, with this meta coming in, you know, proper on the Tracer. Or, I mean, they could still have him on the Genji, if, you know, depending what they want to go with. A lot of people, you know, with Sombra being buffed, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, is Sam going to make his return to the lineup on the Sombra? Because I think a lot of people thought that Kilo was one of their big weaknesses last patch and last tournament, which I can't really disagree with. You know, so we'll see if Kilo stays in, or, you know, is potentially on a different role, or if we do see the reemergence of Sam, because he played well when he was, you know, playing in earlier tournaments. They just didn't really, you know, he's kind of their Genji player, and they you know, preferred to have Proper on the Genji last tournament, you know, because Proper is insane on Genji, and every hero he plays, he's insane. But in any case, I do have San Francisco taking that 3-1. Hopefully, we'll get a little bit of a bounce back performance to Houston, because they did not look very good against Boston. And LA Gladiators versus Vancouver Titans. Again, I'm gonna say 3-0 for Gladiators here. I think they're gonna really start to put the pedal to the metal. This is kind of clutch time, which they've obviously been very good at this season. They're not gonna fall down to that 0-4 start again in these qualifiers, I don't think. And they are already clinched for playoffs. By the way, Gladiators, Shock, and Dallas are all locked in for playoffs already in the West. And then in the East, the only team that is locked so far, I believe, is Seoul. Although I would think Shanghai should be too now. But in any case, these are obviously they've been the top dogs all season. But I think that your Gladiators, your Shock, your Fuel, they're going to they're not going to lay off now. It's not that long of a season anymore, unlike the first season, which was a lot of games to be played. So I think they're going to be as strong as ever. Do some adapting and moving around with the lineups and really making sure that they're ready for that championship run, because this is it. This is the big tournament coming up. Obviously, winning any of the other tournaments is an amazing accomplishment. And it is a championship. But you'd liken it to on the tour, on the PGA. You liken it to an elite event, but this is a world championship. This is a major. This is what every team came here for. So I think they're going to be ready to go for sure. And then looking at the East real quick, we had the Hunters take down the Spark 3-1, and then the Soul mopped up the Valiant. The Dynasty mopped up Valiant 3-0. So no big surprises there. We get a huge rematch right off the bat. Dynasty versus Dragons. Dragons, obviously the best team in the East in last meta. But for this one, I think I favor Seoul a little bit. And so I got them taking that one down 3-1. Trying to do Hunters against the Guangzhou Chargers next. Again, I got the Hunters 3-1 in this one. I have not actually had a chance to look at it, watch it yet, because, like I said, just got back from work. But Hunters, a nice little impressive victory against the Spark, who have, really, really fallen off after the kickoff clash. But in any case, the Charge had a really nice, tournament cycle. They didn't do well in the tournament itself, but to make the tournament was a huge step up for them. But I do think Chengdu is just a little bit better right now. Again, I think that of all the teams in the East, this meta is a big upgrade for the Hunters. Do I think they'll be the best team in it? Still, no. I think they'll still be below Seoul and Shanghai, but I think they could end up as the third best team in the East for these qualifiers. But we shall see. After that, I got Philly taking down Valiant 3-1. Philly should be solid once again. They've been good all season. I feel like maybe a little bit underrated. Because they haven't had like the huge success, but a lot of people, and myself included, thought they'd be like very middle of the pack overall. I think my preseason power rankings, I think they were 14. So they've outperformed expectations for me at least. A lot of these new players have come in and made an impact, so I do think that they take down the Valiant in that one. Then I got Shanghai taking down the Charge 3-0. Hopefully we hit that one for the double points. Shanghai again, I feel like them and Dallas are probably the most meta-resistant teams in the league. Well, maybe Dragons and Shock, because Fuel did have a really bad midseason madness. But in any case, Shanghai, they're so loaded with talent that they can make metas work. It doesn't really matter which heroes are the best of the best. They're either going to be amazing or they're going to be the absolute best. So I get them taking that one down easily. And then Philadelphia Fusion against the Spark. Again, Spark just have not really impressed me too much. I'm off the bandwagon. I was borderline driving the train. First 4 or 5 matches. I said, this team coming into the season, I think they could really pop. I think I had them like 12 to 13-ish in the power rankings, but I was like, this is a team that could really jump up with their level of talent. And it looked like it was, the DPS are popping off, Alfie making a huge impact coming in, Shy was an early MVP candidate, and man, they've fallen off pretty hard, and I think that Philly is just more of a solid, consistent performing team right now, and that's why they're going to get a victory in that one. So, don't do what I did, guys. Don't be a scrub and miss all of your predictions, especially with the double tokens coming out. You want as many tokens as possible, so we can buy all the new skins coming out. I'm sure there'll be a new one for like playoffs, and then after, we get MVP, and world champ skins. So make sure you get your picks in. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. As always, sorry this is a little bit of a weird one because we're in the middle of the week. I have been slacking quite a bit on these, and I do apologize for that. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you're able to watch some Overwatch League this weekend. Good luck to your teams, whoever they may be. And as always, I'll see y'all